It's no secret that California is becoming very expensive to live in. With rising home prices, rising property taxes, insurance costs, and the already high cost of living, it's getting very hard for Californians to make ends meet. And that's why I'm making this video, because a lot of people just like you from California are making their move to South Carolina. And a lot of you guys are reaching out to me and you're asking, what are the costs like? What's it like to live in South Carolina? Is it too conservative? Well, we're going to answer all those questions and we're going to talk about that. So if you're thinking about moving from Los Angeles, San Diego, Santa Clarita, San Bernardino, any of the other Sans, or anywhere else in California, then you're definitely going to want to watch this video. Because we're breaking down why so many Californians are moving to South Carolina, how much it costs, and what it's like. So let's get into it. But before we get into all of that, if we haven't met yet, my name is Kristyn Garcia. I was born and raised right here in Charleston, so I know the area like the back of my hand. I work with my mom, and together we help people just like you make their move to South Carolina. So if you'd like help purchasing a home here in South Carolina, feel free to reach out. My information is in the description below, so feel free to shoot me a text or give me a call. I'm here to help, and we would love to hear from you. So, back to the video. Since this is a real estate channel, let's first talk about home prices. Now, it's no secret that home prices have risen all across the country, but specifically in California, it's getting very hard to become a homeowner and to stay a homeowner. This weekend, I just had a couple visit from California, and they said that homes in that area are in the $800,000 to $900,000 range, and even more. And some homes are even untouchable at around $1 million or $2 million. According to redfin.com, the median home price in California is $818,600. Now compare that to South Carolina's median home price, which is $370,600. Already, you can see that California's home prices are more than double that of South Carolina's. And home prices in Charleston, South Carolina are about at the national average, around $430,000. So right off the bat, it's cheaper to buy a home in South Carolina than it is to buy a home in California. But to keep that home, of course, you're gonna have to pay property taxes and have homeowners insurance. So that's the next thing we're gonna talk about. Let's talk about property taxes and insurance. So let's look at California's property tax rate. On average, California's tax rate is 0.81%. Compare that to South Carolina's property tax rate, which is 0.58%. What you might not know is that South Carolina's property taxes are some of the lowest in the nation. If we take a look at this list from the US Census Bureau in 2022, we are 46 out of 51 states and territories ranked in terms of property taxes. Now, to illustrate how much the property taxes would be every year, why don't we calculate the property taxes for a home that is $400,000? Let's just pretend the homes are the same price for this example. So I had Perplexity AI calculate this out for this example. If California's property tax rate is 0.81% on a $400,000 home, that property tax would equal $3,240 each year. So about $3,200. Now for South Carolina, if we calculate the effective property tax rate, which is on average 0.58% for the whole state, then that annual property tax is going to be $2,320. So on the surface, that doesn't sound like a huge difference, right? $3,200 in California versus $2,300 in South Carolina. But remember that we used an example of a $400,000 home. I'm sure you know that prices in California are a lot higher, so why don't we use the median home price in California, which is $818,600. So the property tax for that home at $818,000 would go up to $6,630 a year. So California's $6,630 a year is about 3 times that of South Carolina's $2,320 a year. So now that we've established that property taxes in California are about 3 times that of property taxes in South Carolina, let's talk about the insurance. In South Carolina, homeowners insurance on average is about $2,076 per year, according to MarketWatch.com. In California, the average cost of homeowners insurance is about $2,511 per year, which is higher than the national average. Now that doesn't sound like too big of a difference, right? But don't forget that in California, you also have to pay earthquake insurance and insurance for other natural disasters like droughts and wildfires even. My clients from California recently told me that their earthquake insurance is another $8,000 per year on top of the homeowner's insurance. And again, that's because California is prone to earthquakes, wildfires, and droughts. But that's just the insurance costs. The cost of living is a whole other factor that you need to think about. And across the board, the cost of living in South Carolina is much lower than that of California. Now, for one, we have lower gas prices. Here's a screenshot of the gas price from yesterday in Moncks Corner. It was $3.05 per gallon. And in California, gas prices right now are around $5.42 a gallon according to the AAA website. And according to NerdWallet's cost of living calculator, the cost of living in the Charleston area is 41% lower than that of San Francisco. Of course, you'll be making less in South Carolina, but it should be more affordable to live in South Carolina than it is to live in California. Because according to nerdwallet.com, housing costs are 67% lower in Charleston than in San Francisco. Transportation costs are 34% lower in Charleston, South Carolina. Food and entertainment costs are each 17% lower in Charleston, South Carolina. And healthcare costs are 30% lower. Great, so it costs less to live in South Carolina than it does to live in California. Even in Charleston, South Carolina, it costs less to live here than in California. And Charleston is one of the more expensive cities in South Carolina. Now that we've covered costs, you might be thinking, cool, it's less expensive to live in South Carolina. But what about the political climate? I heard that South Carolina is very conservative. It's a red state, right? Well, let's talk about that. Now, what you might not know about South Carolina is that there are areas of South Carolina that are more politically moderate. Not every part of South Carolina is a rural Republican haven, although a lot of it is if that's what you're looking for. If we look at South Carolina as a whole, according to Pew Research data, 62% of conservatives in South Carolina identify as Republican or Republican-leaning. 49% of moderates identify as Democratic or Democrat-leaning. However, if we look at Charleston, South Carolina, we'll see that the political climate is somewhat liberal, according to bestplaces.net. In Charleston County, 55% of people voted Democratic in the last presidential election, while 42.6% voted Republican. Charleston County actually voted Democratic in the last 4 out of 5 presidential elections after the year 2000. With that said, if you consider yourself more politically moderate, Charleston, South Carolina might be a great option for you. So if you want to save money on housing costs and day-to-day living, and you want to make your move to South Carolina, then feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is in the description below, so feel free to call me, text me, send me an email. Just reach out and I'd love to speak with you about your move here. And if you want to see why so many people are moving to this underrated suburb near the Charleston, South Carolina area, then you'll want to watch this next video.